My name is Daniel Carter, and if you're hearing this, it means I'm already gone. Or worse, I'm still here, but not in the way you think. I'm recording this on my phone, voice shaking, lights off, because if I turn them on, it sees me. And if it sees me, it knows I'm ready to cross over. I never believed in ghosts. Not really. 35 years of driving across this country, sleeping in motels that smelled like mildew and regret, and I always thought the worst thing I'd face was a flat tire or a bad cup of coffee. But that was before Room 6. Before the mirror. It started on October 23rd. My Honda Accord, 2014, silver, 87,000 miles, had been my companion for 6 years. Reliable. Predictable. Until that night. I was coming back from a sales meeting in Amarillo. Hadn't closed the deal, but my boss didn't care. "Just get back safe," he'd said. Famous last words. The storm hit around 10:45 p.m. Not your average Texas rain. This was biblical. The kind of downpour that makes you feel like the world is trying to wash itself clean of people like me. I turned on the wipers full blast, but it was useless. The windshield was a blur of gray and black. Lightning cracked the sky every 30 seconds, illuminating the highway in strobe flashes that made the road look like a jagged scar on the earth. Then the engine sputtered. Not a cough. Not a hesitation. A full, wet choke, like something inside the car was drowning. The dashboard lights flickered, first the speedometer, then the fuel gauge, then the GPS screen. That's when I saw it. The GPS wasn't showing the map anymore. Just static. Black and white noise, like an old TV with no signal. But in the static, faces. Dozens of them. Men. Women. Children. All with the same hollow eyes. All staring right at me. I tapped the screen. "Recalculate route," I said, voice tight. The voice assistant replied in a distorted whisper, "Pine Valley Motel. Vacancy. Turn left in 2 miles." I'd never set a destination. I had no choice but to stop at the first place I could find. The rain was falling with an intensity one hadn't seen in years, so hard I could barely see beyond the windshield, even with the wipers at maximum speed. The sound of water hitting the metal was deafening, like thousands of fingers drumming impatiently. That's when I saw the sign. Half hidden among the undergrowth and barely illuminated by my dying headlights, stood a weathered sign that read, "Pine Valley Motel, Vacancy." The paint was peeling like diseased skin, and some letters had completely disappeared, giving it a ghostly appearance. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. The entrance road was loose gravel that crunched under my Honda's wheels like bones breaking. The headlights illuminated a series of low buildings, all painted in a color that was once white but now looked more like a sickly yellow. The motel had that typical 70s aesthetic. Simple architecture, numbered doors, and small windows that looked like half-closed eyes watching me. I parked in front of what appeared to be the reception. A flickering neon sign announced, "Open 24 hours," although half the letters didn't work. The remaining light cast strange shadows that moved to the rhythm of the blinking, creating shapes that my tired and stressed mind interpreted as human figures, standing, waiting, watching. Getting out of the car, the cold hit me like a slap. It wasn't just the temperature. There was something else, a feeling of emptiness that seemed to suck the heat from my body. The wind whistled between the buildings with a sound that reminded me of distant moans, or whispers. I grabbed my duffel bag from the trunk. Inside, 2 changes of clothes, my laptop, a framed photo of my parents, both gone now, and my lucky tie, the one I wore on my first sales pitch. The reception door was glass, but it was so fogged up I couldn't see inside. A rusty bell announced my entrance with a metallic and sad sound that echoed far longer than it should have. The interior was exactly what I expected. Worn carpet of indefinable color, walls with wallpaper peeling at the corners, and that characteristic smell of dampness and cheap disinfectant. Behind the counter was an old television tuned to a static channel, but every few seconds, a face would flash in the noise. A woman's face. Pale. Terrified. But what caught my attention most was the receptionist. He was a man of indefinable age, with that look people have who have lived too long in places where the sun never really enters. His skin was pale, almost grayish, and his eyes had a watery quality that made me uncomfortable. He wore a white shirt that was once white and a red tie that had seen better decades. "Good evening," he said in a voice that sounded like he hadn't used it in days. "Looking for a room?" "Yes, please. Just for tonight. My car broke down." He nodded slowly, as if that was the answer he expected. His fingers, long and bony, moved over a yellowed paper register. There was no computer, no modern system. Just an old book with pages that creaked when turned, as if they were made of dried skin. "I have room 6 available," he said without looking up. "It's quiet. Very quiet." There was something in the way he said, "quiet," that made me nervous, but I was tired and soaked. I just wanted a bed and a roof over my head. "Perfect. That's $40 for the night. Cash." I paid without complaint. He handed me an old metal key, heavy, the type that isn't used anywhere anymore. Room 6 was engraved in the metal with numbers that felt rough under my fingers, like they'd been scratched by desperate hands. "Is there anything I should know about the room?" I asked, more to make conversation than out of real curiosity. The receptionist looked up for the first time since I'd entered. His eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that I found disturbing. "Just avoid looking at yourself in the mirror after midnight," he said in a completely serious tone. "Sometimes reflections don't behave as they should." I laughed, thinking it was a bad joke or maybe a comment about the poor state of the facilities. "Lighting problem?" "Something like that," he murmured, returning to his register. "The room is at the end of the hallway. Have a good night, Mr. Carter." I didn't remember giving him my name. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. After the shadow with glowing eyes vanished for the 3rd time, I sat on the edge of the bed, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the mirror like it was a live wire about to spark. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat, in my temples, in the tips of my fingers. I kept the lights on. Not because I wanted to see the room, but because I needed to prove to myself that the mirror was just glass. Just wood. Just an old ornate piece of junk in a cheap motel. But every time I blinked, I swore the reflection blinked a fraction of a second later. At 1:17 a.m. Why that time? I don't know, but it's burned into my memory. I heard it again. Not breathing this time. A whisper. My name. Daniel. It came from the mirror. Not from behind me. Not from the hallway. From inside the glass. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then it came again, softer, wetter, like lips dragging through water. "Daniel, look at me." I didn't. I kept my eyes locked on the floor. But my reflection, it looked up. And it smiled. That's when I lost it. I grabbed the lamp from the nightstand and hurled it at the mirror. Glass shattered. The bulb exploded in a shower of sparks. But the mirror didn't even crack. Not a single scratch. The frame absorbed the impact like it was made of flesh, not wood. And in the broken glass on the floor, I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. Dozens of tiny reflections, each in a shard of broken glass, showed me not as I was, but as I would be, hollow-eyed, pale, mouth sewn shut with black thread, standing in a field of purple flowers under a sky with no sun. I backed into the corner, sliding down the wall until I was sitting on the cold linoleum. I wrapped my arms around my knees and rocked back and forth, whispering, "It's not real. It's stress. It's the storm. It's the isolation." But deep down I knew. This was real. And it had been waiting for me. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Hours, maybe. The rain never stopped. The fluorescents in the hallway kept buzzing like angry wasps. And the mirror, it just watched. At dawn, the first gray light crept through the curtains. The mirror lost its glow. It became just a mirror again. Glass, wood, Latin plaque. I stood up, legs trembling, and walked to the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face, avoiding the small mirror above the sink. But when I finally looked up, my reflection was wrong. My left eye was darker than my right. Almost black. And when I blinked, it stayed open for a second longer. I slammed my fist into the mirror. Cracks spiderwebbed out from my knuckles. Blood dripped into the sink. But in the largest shard, I saw Elena Herrera standing behind me, her hand on my shoulder, her lips moving. Don't let it take you. Break the network. I spent the morning in the motel diner, nursing black coffee that tasted like ash. Steve, the receptionist, brought me toast I didn't eat. He didn't ask what was wrong. He just said, "You look like you saw a ghost." "I saw worse," I muttered. He nodded slowly, like he understood. "Room 6 has a history. People come in. They don't always leave the same." "Who was the last one?" I asked. He hesitated. Then, "A woman. 2 years ago. Stayed 3 nights. Left in an ambulance. They found her in the parking lot, screaming about eyes in the glass. She's in a psychiatric facility in Tulsa now. Won't speak to anyone. Just stares at mirrors, or covers them with sheets." I asked if I could see the room's guest log. He shook his head. "That book doesn't go back that far. It only holds the last 10 years. Before that, it's in the basement." "The basement?" He leaned in, voice dropping. "The original register. From 1971. When they built the motel over the Herrera house. It's down there, in a fireproof safe. But I don't go down there after dark. The lights flicker. And sometimes, you hear knocking from inside the walls." I begged him. Offered him $50. He finally relented. "Fine. But stay quick. And don't touch anything else down there." The basement was exactly what you'd expect. Damp concrete, exposed pipes, shelves of old cleaning supplies and broken furniture. In the far corner, behind a stack of mildewed mattresses, was a metal safe. Steve opened it with a key on a chain around his neck. Inside was a thick ledger bound in cracked leather. The pages smelled like dust and something sweet, like the air in room 6. I flipped to October 1969. There it was. Herrera family, 7 guests, room 6, October 31st, 1969. Below it, in shaky handwriting, checked out, November 1st, 1969, no luggage, no vehicle, no trace. But that wasn't the worst part. On the page for November 2nd, 1969, someone had written in red ink, faded but still legible. "They're still here. Watching. Waiting. Don't look in the mirror after midnight." And below that, in a different hand, dated March 14th, 1983. I tried to exorcise it. It laughed. It showed me my daughter's face in the glass. She's been dead 10 years. God help us all. I turned to the most recent entries. June 12, 2022, Rebecca Lynn, Portland, Oregon, room 6. Left in the night. Car still in lot. Notebook found on bed. Last page. It showed me Daniel. He's coming next. My blood ran cold. Rebecca Lynn knew my name. Before I even got here. Steve found me sitting on the basement steps, the ledger in my lap. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said again. "I've seen the future," I whispered. Back in room 6, I cleaned the broken lamp, swept the glass, washed the blood from my knuckles. I avoided the big mirror, but I couldn't avoid the small one in the bathroom. Every time I passed it, I saw flashes, Elena, Rebecca, the shadow with glowing eyes. At 3 p.m., I drove to the Pine Valley Public Library. It was a one-room building next to the post office, run by an elderly woman named Mrs. Gable. Her eyes lit up when I mentioned the Herrera family. "Elena was my best friend," she said, her voice cracking. "We were inseparable in high school. She was brilliant. Wanted to be a writer." She led me to a locked cabinet in the back. Inside was a leather-bound diary, water-stained, the pages brittle. I found this in the attic of the old schoolhouse after they demolished it in '75. It must have been left behind during the chaos. I sat at a table by the window and opened it. The first entry was dated September 1st, 1969. Today, Papa brought home the most beautiful mirror. It's from Spain, he says. Over 200 years old. The frame is carved with angels and saints, but their faces look sad. Mama says it's too big for the dining room, but Papa insists. He says it's a family heirloom, that it's been waiting for us. I read for hours. Entry after entry, Elena's voice grew more frightened, more desperate. October 10th. Tommy says he sees a boy in the mirror who looks just like him. They play chess through the glass. Papa says it's a sign that the mirror is a gateway. October 20th. Mama won't go near the dining room anymore. She says the eyes in the frame follow her. Last night, she heard singing in Spanish, her abuela's lullaby, but no one was there. October 25th. Papa found an old book in the attic. It's written in Latin, but he translated enough to understand. The mirror is one of 7. Together, they form a network that weakens the veil between worlds. If all 7 are activated on the same night, something ancient wakes up. I looked up from the diary. The sun was setting. Shadows stretched across the library floor. Mrs. Gable was watching me, tears in her eyes. She never came back to school after October 31st, she said. We thought she was sick. Then the police came. The whole family, gone. Like they'd never existed. I asked if she knew anything about the other mirrors. She shook her head. But Elena once told me a story her abuela told her. 7 mirrors, 7 sins, 7 souls to open the door. I thought it was just a fairy tale. Back at the motel, I couldn't stay in room 6. I asked Steve for another room. He shook his head. Only room 6 is available. The others, they're booked. But the parking lot was empty. No other cars. I knew he was lying. That night, I prepared. I bought holy water from the Catholic church in town. Salt from the grocery store. A silver pocket knife from the gas station. Steve gave me a crucifix his abuela had blessed. It won't kill it, he said. But it might buy you time. At 8 p.m., I sat in the center of the room, a circle of salt around me, the crucifix in my lap, the knife in my hand. The mirror watched. At 9 p.m., the TV turned on by itself. Static. Then, a face appeared in the noise. Rebecca Lynn, pale, eyes wide with terror. Daniel, she whispered. It's not just one mirror. There are 7. Elena's trying to destroy them, but Valerius is fighting back. He's sending hunters. They're coming for you. The screen went black. At 10:30 p.m., the whispers started. Not in English. In Latin. In Spanish. In languages I didn't recognize. They came from the mirror, from the walls, from inside my own head. Speculum Animarum Perditarum. Venite ad nos. Daniel Carter, your time is now. At 11:30 p.m., I saw her. Elena Herrera. She stood in the mirror, wearing a white dress stained with blood. Her hands pressed against the glass. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then, slowly, she raised one finger and wrote on the glass. SEATTLE. And below it, ROM 1-3. At midnight, the lights went out. The breathing returned. Closer. Louder. And then the hand emerged. Black, clawed, too many joints, reaching through the glass like it was water. It grabbed my wrist. The pain was electric, burning, like my veins were filling with ice. Daniel, it said in my voice, but distorted, wet, like it was speaking through blood. It's time to exchange places. You'll be free. I'll be free. And the network grows stronger. I raised the crucifix. The entity screamed, a sound that wasn't human, and recoiled. But as it pulled back into the mirror, it left something behind. A single black feather. And on the glass, written in what looked like blood, "You can't run. You're already part of the story." I spent the rest of the night in the salt circle, knife in hand, crucifix clutched to my chest. At dawn, I made my decision. I wouldn't run. I wouldn't hide. I would go inside. And I would end this. After that second night, the night the entity reached through the glass and called me by name, I knew I couldn't just run. Not anymore. This wasn't a haunted motel. This was a gateway. And I was standing right at the threshold. But I also knew I couldn't fight it alone. Not without understanding what I was up against. At dawn, I went back to the library. Mrs. Gable was already there, dusting the shelves with a soft cloth. She didn't seem surprised to see me. "You're still here," she said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. "I need to know everything," I replied. "About the Herreras. About the mirror. About what really happened that night." She led me to a back room I hadn't seen before, a small archive filled with boxes labeled Pine Valley Historical Society. Inside one, I found the police report from November 2nd, 1969. Case file #69-1102. Subject: Disappearance of Herrera family, 7 persons. Location: 47 Oak Lane, Pine Valley, Texas. Notes: House found empty. No signs of struggle. All personal belongings intact. Vehicle: 1965 Ford Fairlane, still in driveway. Front door locked from inside. Windows sealed. Only anomaly: large antique mirror in dining room, frame stained with what lab analysis confirmed as human blood, typo plus. No fingerprints. No DNA match in system. Conclusion: voluntary disappearance. Case closed 1970. Voluntary. 7 people, 3 children, 2 elderly grandparents, just walked away from their lives? And left their car behind? Mrs. Gable handed me another folder. This came to the library in 1975. Anonymous donation. No return address. Inside was a stack of letters. All addressed to Elena Herrera. All unopened. The first was from a girl named Maggie Torres, dated October 28, 1969. Elena, you missed school again. Mrs. Ruiz says you're sick, but I saw your light on last night. Are you okay? Your brother Tommy came by my house yesterday. He said the mirror talks to him. He said it showed him a boy who looks just like him, playing chess in a garden of purple flowers. I think he's scaring himself. Please come back. I miss you. The last letter was from Elena's best friend, Mrs. Gable herself, dated November 1st, 1969. Elena, I'm outside your house. I can see the lights are on, but no one answers the door. I heard singing, your abuela's lullaby, but it's coming from the dining room. Please, if you can hear this, open the door. I'm scared for you. There was a final note, written on the back of the envelope in shaky handwriting. They're all inside the mirror now. I saw them. Waving. Smiling. But their eyes were empty. I looked up at Mrs. Gable. You saw them? She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I pressed my face to the window. And for a second, I saw Elena. She was standing behind the glass, but not in the dining room. In some other place. A place with no sky. Just purple mist and twisted trees. She mouthed one word. Run. I spent the rest of the morning at the sheriff's office. The current sheriff, a man named Deputy Ray Collins, had inherited the old files when the original sheriff retired in '85. You're not the first to ask about Room 6, he said, pulling out a thick binder. Since 1971, we've had 12 disappearances linked to that motel. All travelers. All checked into Room 6. All vanished without a trace. He flipped to a page with a photo of a woman in her 30s. This is Linda Cho. Stayed in June 2022. Left her car, her purse, her phone. The last thing on her phone was a voice memo. He played it for me. It's me, Linda. I don't know how much time I have. The mirror. It's not just showing me things. It's showing me him. Daniel Carter. He's coming next. I saw his face in the glass last night. He looked terrified. Please, if anyone finds this, warn him. Don't let him stay in room 6. Don't let him look in the mirror after midnight. My blood ran cold. Linda Cho knew my name before I even existed in this story. Do you have anything else? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Sheriff Collins hesitated. Then he pulled out a small evidence bag. Inside was a black feather. Found it on Linda's pillow. Lab says it's not from any known bird species. The structure, it's wrong. Too many barbs. Too sharp. I recognized it immediately. It was the same feather the entity had left behind in my room. That afternoon, I tracked down Father Michael Callahan, the priest who tried to exorcise the mirror in 1983. He lived in a trailer on the edge of town, surrounded by empty whiskey bottles and overgrown weeds. He opened the door with a shotgun in his hands. When he saw it was just me, he lowered it slowly. "You're here about the mirror," he said. It wasn't a question. I need to know what happened. He invited me in. The trailer smelled of mildew and regret. On the wall hung a crucifix, cracked right down the middle. "I was young then," he began, pouring 2 glasses of cheap bourbon. "Full of faith. Thought I could cast out any demon with the right prayer. I went to the motel at midnight. Room 6 was empty, but the mirror, it was glowing. I sprinkled holy water, recited the rite of exorcism, and then it laughed. Not a human laugh. A wet, gurgling sound, like drowning. The mirror showed me my daughter. She died in a car crash 10 years earlier. She was standing in a field of purple flowers, holding hands with strangers. She smiled and said, 'Daddy, come join us. It's peaceful here.' I broke the crucifix over the mirror. It didn't even scratch." He took a long drink. "I left that night. Never set foot in Pine Valley again. But I still dream of that field. And sometimes I hear my daughter's voice calling me from the bathroom mirror." As I left his trailer, he handed me a small vial. Holy water. Blessed by the Pope himself in '82. It won't destroy the mirror, but it might buy you time. Back at the motel, I avoided room 6. I slept in my car, parked under the flickering neon sign. But even there, I couldn't escape it. At 1:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A voice message. Female. Terrified. "My name is Rebecca Lynn. I found a mirror in a flea market in Portland. It's identical to the one in Pine Valley. Same frame. Same Latin inscription. Last night, it showed me your room, Daniel. It showed me you standing in front of the mirror, bleeding from your eyes. Elena was there too. She said, 'Tell him about Seattle. Room 13 at the Grand Pacific Hotel. That's the next one. If you're hearing this, please find me. I don't want to cross over alone.'" The call disconnected. I played it again. And again. Rebecca Lynn wasn't just another victim. She was part of the network. The next morning, I drove to the old Herrera property. All that remained was a concrete foundation and a rusted swing set. But in the center of the lot, half buried in weeds, was a stone plaque. "In memory of the Herrera family. May their souls find peace beyond the glass." Carved into the back, almost hidden, was a symbol. 7 circles connected by lines, forming a web. In the center, a single eye. I took a photo. That night, I returned to room 6. Not to sleep. To research. I spread out everything I'd found. The police report, the letters, the symbol, Rebecca's message. And then I saw it. The connection. The mirrors weren't random. They were placed in locations tied to trauma, loss, and unresolved grief. Pine Valley. A family vanishing. Portland. Rebecca's mother died by suicide in 2020. Seattle. The Grand Pacific Hotel burned down in 1942, killing 37 people. And the symbol on the plaque? It matched a diagram I found in an old book at the library, The 7 Gates of Valerius, a 17th-century alchemy text. 7 mirrors, 7 sins, 7 souls to open the door. When all 7 are activated under the blood moon, the veil between worlds will tear, and the Watcher in the glass shall walk among men. I looked at the calendar on my phone. The next blood moon was in 28 days. That's when I understood. The entity wasn't just trapping souls. It was preparing for something bigger. And Elena, she wasn't just trying to save herself. She was trying to stop an apocalypse. At midnight, the mirror glowed again. But this time, I didn't look away. I stared into it, and I spoke. Elena, if you can hear me, I'm coming for you. And I'm going to burn every mirror in this network to the ground. For the first time, the reflection smiled back. Not the entity. Elena. And in the glass, she mouthed 2 words. Thank you. After learning about the network, 7 mirrors, 7 souls, 1 ancient evil, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone in this fight. Elena was out there, yes, but others had seen the mirrors too. Others had recorded their final moments. And their voices, they were reaching me. The first came 2 nights after my deal with the entity. I was sitting in my car, parked under the flickering neon of the Pine Valley Motel, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Seattle area code. I answered. Static. Then a woman's voice, trembling. Daniel Carter? Is this Daniel Carter? Who is this? My name is Rebecca Lynn. I found your name in the mirror. It showed me your face. Your room. The way you looked at midnight. Terrified. She told me everything. She'd bought the mirror at a flea market in Portland 3 weeks earlier. It was identical to mine. Same ornate frame, same Latin inscription. At first, it was beautiful. Haunting, but beautiful. Then it started showing her things. Her dead mother, standing in a field of purple flowers. A man in a motel room, bleeding from his eyes. Me. It showed me you writing this recording, she whispered. It said you'd be the next to cross over unless someone broke the network. Elena, she's real, isn't she? I told her yes. And I told her about Seattle. Room 13 at the Grand Pacific Hotel. That's where the next mirror is, I said. You have to destroy it. I can't, she sobbed. It's already inside my head. I see it when I close my eyes. It's rewriting my memories. Last night, I forgot my own birthday. This morning, I didn't recognize my cat. We talked for 20 minutes. She gave me coordinates, hotel names, even a symbol she'd found carved into the mirror's frame, a 7-pointed star with an eye in the center. Then the line went dead. I called back. No answer. The next day, I found her final message in my voicemail. It's too late. It's in the room with me. It's wearing my face. Daniel, if you can hear this, tell Elena. The 4th mirror is in Seattle. At the old Grand Pacific Hotel. Room 13. Tell her. I'm sorry I couldn't wait. Tell her. I see Mama now. She's smiling. Sound of glass shattering, then silence. I played it 3 times. Each time, I heard something new, a whisper beneath her voice, saying, 1 down. 6 to go. But Rebecca wasn't the only one. A week later, another message arrived. This time from Berlin. The voice was male, calm, academic. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a historian at Humboldt University. I've been tracking the mirrors for years. I believe they were created by an alchemist named Valerius in 1642. He'd found a mirror in a private collection, a nobleman's estate in Bavaria. Unlike the others, this one wasn't passive. It hunted. It doesn't just show you your fate, Marcus explained. It sends hunters, souls corrupted by the mirrors, to find new hosts. They appear as people you trust. Your best friend. Your therapist. Your dead sister. And when you look into their eyes, you see the mirror behind them. He'd been studying Valerius's journals. The alchemist hadn't created the mirrors to trap souls. He'd created them to feed something older, a being he called the Watcher in the Glass. The blood moon is coming, Marcus said. On that night, If all 7 mirrors are active, the Watcher will step through. And it won't just take souls. It will rewrite reality itself. I asked him how to stop it. Destroy the mirrors. But not just smash them. You have to break them with iron, salt, and a name. The true name of the soul trapped inside. Elena knows this. She's been doing it. We spoke for an hour. He gave me locations. Mirror 3, New Orleans, hidden in a voodoo shop. Mirror 4, Seattle, Grand Pacific Hotel. Mirror 5, Moscow, in a Soviet-era bunker. Mirror 6, Cairo, inside a pharaoh's tomb. Mirror 7, unknown. But it's close. It's always near the last victim, he said. Then his voice changed. Became wet. Gurgling. Daniel, it's here. It's wearing my father's face. It says you're next. The call cut out. I never heard from Marcus again. But his research saved me. I spent days cross-referencing his notes with the police files, the diary entries, the symbols from the Herrera plaque. And I found a pattern. The mirrors weren't placed randomly. They were anchored to places of mass trauma. Pine Valley, a family vanishing. Portland, Rebecca's mother's suicide. Berlin, the nobleman's massacre during World War II. New Orleans, a voodoo priestess burned at the stake. Seattle, the Grand Pacific Fire of 1942. Moscow, Stalin's purges. Cairo, the tomb's curse. And the 7th. It had to be tied to my trauma. My parents' car crash when I was 12. The night I stopped believing in God. The night I first felt truly alone. That's when I understood. The 7th mirror wasn't in a hotel or a museum. It was in my childhood home. And it was waiting for me. But before I could act, the mirror in room 6 glowed again. This time, Elena appeared, not as a warning, but as a guide. She pointed to the wall behind me. I turned. There, written in what looked like frost, were 7 names. Herrera family. Linda Cho. Rebecca Lin. Marcus Chen. Unknown, New Orleans. Unknown, Moscow. Daniel Carter. My name was last. Not because I was the final victim, but because I was the key. Elena's lips moved. You don't destroy the mirrors, Daniel. You free the souls inside them. And the last soul is yours. I didn't sleep that night. I packed my car. And I drove toward Seattle. Because if Rebecca and Marcus died fighting, I owed it to them to finish what they started. After my last conversation with Marcus Chen's ghost, or whatever it was, I knew I couldn't stay in Pine Valley any longer. The mirror in room 6 wasn't just watching me. It was waiting. And every hour that passed brought the blood moon closer. I packed my car with everything I'd gathered, the Herrera diary, the police files, the black feather, Father Callahan's holy water, and Steve's crucifix. Before I left, I went back to room 6 one last time. The mirror was dark, silent. But as I turned to leave, I saw it. My reflection didn't turn with me. It stayed facing the door. And it smiled. I drove straight to Seattle. 22 hours of highway, rain, and static on the radio. Every time I passed a rest stop with a bathroom, I avoided the mirrors. I used my phone camera to check my hair, my face, anything to avoid looking directly into glass. But even then, I saw it. In the black screen between photos, my reflection blinked a second too late. The Grand Pacific Hotel was exactly as Rebecca had described, a crumbling Art Deco relic on the edge of downtown, its lobby filled with dust and the ghosts of 1940s glamour. The clerk barely looked up when I asked for room 13. Cash only, he muttered, sliding a key across the counter. And don't touch the mirror. Room 13 was identical to room 6, but worse. The mirror here was taller, its frame carved with scenes of drowning, sailors pulled under by skeletal hands, women sinking into bathtubs, children vanishing into puddles. At the bottom, the same Latin phrase, Speculum Animarum Perditarum. I set up my defenses, salt in the corners, holy water on the windowsill, the crucifix on the nightstand. At 9 p.m., the whispers began. Not in Latin this time. In English. In voices I recognized. "Daniel, you're too late. We're all waiting for you. The watcher is hungry." At 11 p.m., the mirror showed me Pine Valley. Room 6. My Honda still in the parking lot. And standing in the window, Elena. She raised a hand and pointed to the mirror. Then she mouthed, "Break the glass. Free the soul." At midnight, I didn't wait for the entity to come to me. I walked to the mirror and pressed my palm against the glass. "Elena," I said, "if you can hear me, I'm ready." The glass turned cold, then hot, then liquid. I stepped through. Level 1. The threshold. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not true silence, more like the absence of human sound. No cars, no voices, no wind. Just a low, constant hum, like the world was breathing. The sky was purple. Not sunset purple. Not twilight purple. A deep, unnatural violet that hurt to look at for too long. The ground was made of shattered glass, millions of broken mirrors, each showing a different life, a different death. I saw Linda Cho screaming in her car, Rebecca Lynn covering her ears in her Portland apartment, Marcus Chen backing away from his father's smiling face. And souls, dozens of them, wandering in loops. A woman in a 1940s dress kept reliving her fall from the Grand Pacific's upper floor. Every time she hit the ground, she stood up and climbed the stairs again. A man in a business suit repeated his last phone call, "I'm sorry, honey. I'll be home soon." But he never made it home. His car crashed in the rain. Just like my parents. I called out to them. They didn't hear me. They were trapped in their final moments, over and over, forever. Level 2. The hollows. The path led deeper into the mist. The air grew colder. The glass ground gave way to ash. Here, the souls weren't just repeating their deaths. They were hunting. I saw a child calling for its mother, its voice sweet and innocent. But when I got closer, its eyes were black voids, its mouth stretched too wide. "Come play with us, Daniel," it whispered. "Elena's waiting." I ran. Behind me, more voices joined in. "Stay with us. You belong here. Your parents are here too." I stopped. "Where are they?" I asked, my voice breaking. The child pointed to a hill in the distance. On top of it stood two figures. My mother and father. They were holding hands, smiling, just like in our last family photo. But their eyes were empty. I took a step forward. Then I remembered Elena's warning, "They're not your parents. They're echoes. Bait." I turned away. The child screamed, a sound that wasn't human, and vanished into the mist. Level 3. The core. The heart of the mirror world was a cavern of black glass. In the center floated the nexus, a pulsing orb of liquid obsidian, connected to 7 threads of light that stretched into the void. Each thread led to a mirror. Pine Valley, Portland, Seattle, New Orleans, Berlin, Moscow, and one that flickered like a dying star. And standing before the nexus was Elena. Not the Elena from the diary. Not the terrified girl from the mirror. This Elena was older, stronger, her eyes burning with purpose. "You came," she said. "I had to," I replied. "I can't let it win." She led me to the nexus. This is the source. The Watcher's prison. As long as the mirrors are active, it feeds. But if we destroy them all, the nexus collapses, and the Watcher is trapped forever. "How do I help?" I asked. She placed her hand on my chest. "You don't destroy the mirrors, Daniel. You free the souls inside them. Every mirror holds a soul that's been used as an anchor. When you break the glass, you release them. And each soul freed weakens the Watcher." "What about the 7th mirror?" I asked. "The one that's still hidden?" Elena's expression darkened. "It's tied to your trauma. Your parents' crash. It's in your childhood home, Daniel. In your old bedroom. And it's waiting for you to come back. Level 4. The Library of Mirrors. Beyond the core was a library that stretched into infinity. Shelves of black glass held mirrors instead of books. Each mirror showed a life being rewritten, twisted, destroyed. I saw Carmen Delgado from the Notebook story, standing in a field of purple flowers, writing in a black journal. I saw Detective Morrison, sitting in a Scottish cabin, staring at a mirror that showed his son's face. I saw Anna Kristina Vaskova, painting endless copies of her self-portrait, each one darker than the last. And in the center of the library stood Valerius, the alchemist. He wasn't a monster. He was a man in a 17th-century coat, his face lined with regret. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he said, his voice weary. "I only wanted to bring my daughter back. The Watcher promised me she'd return if I built the mirrors. But it lied. It always lies. Can you help us?" I asked. He nodded. "I've been waiting for someone strong enough to finish what I started. Take this." He handed me a silver hammer, its head engraved with the same 7-pointed star I'd seen in Rebecca's message. "This is the only thing that can truly break the mirrors," he said. "But you must say the soul's name as you strike. Otherwise, the mirror will just heal." I took the hammer. It was heavier than it looked. Elena appeared beside me. "It's time to go back, Daniel. The blood moon is in 3 days. You have to destroy the Seattle mirror tonight. Then New Orleans. Then Moscow. And finally, you're home." I looked at the hammer. At the library. At the endless suffering. "I'll end this," I promised. Valerius placed a hand on my shoulder. "Then God be with you, Daniel Carter. Because the Watcher is already watching." After stepping back from the mirror in Seattle, I knew I couldn't hesitate. Rebecca Lynn had died because she waited too long. Marcus Chen had fallen because he tried to understand instead of act. I wouldn't make their mistakes. I stood in room 13, the silver hammer from Valerius heavy in my hand. The mirror pulsed like a heartbeat, its frame carved with drowning souls. I could hear them now, whispers in a dozen languages, all begging for release. "Elena," I said, "if you can hear me, tell me the name." A cold wind swept through the room, though the windows were sealed. Frost formed on the glass, spelling out a single word. "Linda." Linda Cho. The woman from Pine Valley who'd warned me in her final voicemail. Her soul was the anchor for this mirror. I raised the hammer. "I release you, Linda Cho. May your soul find peace beyond the glass." I struck. The impact wasn't loud, it was silent, like the world holding its breath. Then the mirror shattered, not into shards, but into dust that glowed faintly before vanishing. The air in the room grew lighter, warmer. The whispers stopped. And in the space where the mirror had been, a single white flower bloomed on the floor, a lily, its petals soft and real. I picked it up. It didn't wilt. New Orleans. The voodoo shop. 2 days later, I stood in the French Quarter, rain slicking the cobblestones. The address Marcus had given me led to a narrow shop between a jazz bar and a fortune-teller. A sign above the door read, "Maman Celeste's Curiosities, Protection and Power." Inside, the air was thick with the smell of incense, herbs, and something metallic. Blood, maybe. Shelves held jars of roots, bones, and dried herbs. In the back corner, covered by a black cloth, stood the mirror. Maman Celeste, an elderly black woman with eyes that saw too much, watched me from behind the counter. "You here for the mirror," she said. "Not a question." "I'm here to free the soul trapped inside it," I replied. She studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "It's been hungry. Took 3 customers last year. All vanished. Left their shoes behind." She led me to the mirror and pulled back the cloth. This one was smaller, its frame carved with serpents and skulls. At the bottom, the same Latin phrase, Speculum Animarum Perditarum. "But you can't just smash it," she warned. "This one's bound by blood magic. You need salt, iron, and fire. And you must say the name with true intent." She handed me a pouch of sea salt, an iron nail, and a white candle. My grandmother used these to banish a loa that went rogue. They'll work here too. That night, at midnight, I performed the ritual. I drew a circle of salt around the mirror, placed the iron nail on its surface, lit the candle. The mirror fought back. Shadows poured from its edges, forming hands that grabbed at my ankles. Whispers became screams. The room filled with the stench of rot. But I held firm. "Elena," I called. The name. Frost formed on the glass. "Marie." Marie Laveau's descendant, Maman Celeste whispered. Burned at the stake in 1893 for practicing true magic. I raised the hammer. "I release you, Marie. May your soul find peace beyond the glass." I struck. The mirror exploded in a burst of green flame. The shadows shrieked and dissolved. The air cleared. And on the floor, another white lily bloomed. Moscow, the Soviet bunker. Getting into Russia was harder. No visa. No contacts. Just a name, Bunker 7, Lubyanka District. I bribed a taxi driver to take me to the outskirts of Moscow. The bunker was hidden beneath an abandoned factory, its entrance rusted shut. I pried it open with a crowbar, the metal screaming in the frozen air. Inside, the cold was unnatural, deep, bone-chilling, like the earth itself was dead. The walls were lined with Soviet propaganda posters, their colors faded, their slogans meaningless. At the center of the bunker, in a room that had once been an interrogation chamber, stood the mirror. This one was different. Its frame was made of human bone, femurs, ribs, skulls fused together. The glass was black, not reflective, but absorbing. It didn't show my reflection. It showed nothing. A void. And in that void, I saw them. My parents. Leo. Carla. All standing in the field of purple flowers, smiling, their eyes empty. "Join us, Daniel," my mother whispered, her voice echoing from the glass. "It's peaceful here." I almost stepped forward. But then I remembered Elena's warning, "They're not your parents. They're echoes." Bait. I gripped the hammer. Elena. The name. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, frost formed on the black glass. Not words, but a date. 1937. The Great Purge. Stalin's terror. Millions disappeared. Their souls harvested. I didn't know the name, but I knew the truth. I raised the hammer. I release all who were taken in the darkness of 1937. May your souls find peace beyond the glass. I struck. The bone frame shattered like dry wood. The black glass cracked, then imploded, pulling the shadows into itself before vanishing with a sound like a sigh. The cold lifted. Sunlight, real, weak, but real, filtered through a crack in the ceiling. And on the concrete floor, a third white lily bloomed. The blood moon approaches. Back in my car, I counted the mirrors destroyed. Pine Valley, freed Elena. Seattle, freed Linda. New Orleans, freed Marie. Moscow, freed the purged souls. 3 remained. Cairo, Berlin, and mine. Elena appeared in my rearview mirror, not as a warning, but as a guide. Her lips moved. Cairo first. The tomb is waking. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. I had 7 days until the blood moon. 7 days to end this. And as I drove into the night, I kept the 3 white lilies on the passenger seat. They hadn't wilted. Not even a little. After Moscow, I knew where I had to go next. Not because Elena told me. Not because of a vision or a frost-written message. But because my body remembered. The blood moon was 3 days away. The sky already had that sickly red tint at dusk, like the world was bleeding from the edges. I drove west, toward the place I hadn't visited in 23 years, my childhood home in rural Texas. The house was still standing, barely. Paint peeling, roof sagging, windows boarded up like blind eyes. Weeds choked the driveway where my father's old pickup used to sit. The swing set in the backyard was rusted solid, frozen mid-arc, as if time itself had given up on this place. I didn't go inside right away. I sat in my car for hours, watching the sunset stain the walls crimson. This was where it all began. The night my parents died. The night I stopped believing in anything. It was raining that night too. I was 12. They'd gone to pick up groceries. I was home alone, watching cartoons, eating cereal straight from the box. Then the phone rang. Sheriff's voice. There's been an accident. They'd hydroplaned on Highway 83. Hit a tree. My father died instantly. My mother lasted 3 hours in the ICU. I never got to say goodbye. And now, 23 years later, I was back. Because the seventh mirror, the final anchor, was here. In my old bedroom. I stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of mildew, but underneath it, something else. That same sweet rot stench from room 6. The hallway was dark. My footsteps echoed like I was walking through a tomb. My bedroom door was closed. I knew what was behind it. I could feel it breathing. I turned the knob. The room was exactly as I'd left it. Posters of astronauts and dinosaurs. A Lego spaceship on the shelf. My old baseball glove on the bed. And on the wall opposite the bed, the mirror. It wasn't the same as the others. This one was smaller, framed in simple oak, my mother's dressing mirror. But the glass was wrong. It didn't reflect the room. It reflected the field of purple flowers. And standing in it, my parents. Daniel, my mother whispered, her voice warm, familiar. You came back. I wanted to run to her. To bury my face in her shoulder like I did when I was a boy. But I remembered Elena's warning, they're not your parents. They're echoes. Bait. I know what you are, I said, gripping the silver hammer. My father smiled. We're your family. We've been waiting for you. It's peaceful here, son. No pain. No loss. Just us. Forever. Tears burned my eyes. You're not them. You're using their faces to trap me. The image flickered. For a split second, I saw the truth. Their eyes were black voids, their skin stretched too tight over bone, their smiles too wide. Then it was gone. They were my parents again. Please, my mother begged. Don't leave us alone again. I raised the hammer. Elena. The name. Silence. Then, slowly, frost formed on the glass. Not a name, but a date. October 17th, 1999. The night they died. I understood. This mirror wasn't anchored to a stranger's soul. It was anchored to mine. To the moment I lost them. To the grief I never processed. To the boy who stopped believing in happy endings. I couldn't say a name. I had to say my truth. I took a deep breath. I released the boy who lost his parents. I release the grief that's haunted me for 23 years. I release the lie that I'm alone. My parents are gone, but their love isn't. And I won't let you use their memory to trap me. I struck the mirror. The glass didn't shatter. It screamed. A sound that wasn't glass, wasn't human, a wail of pure rage and hunger that shook the walls. Cracks spiderwebbed across the surface, glowing with that same sickly red light as the blood moon. And then, silence. The mirror fell from the wall in one piece, landing face down on the carpet. When I turned it over, the glass was gone. Just an empty frame. On the floor, a fourth white lily bloomed. But the victory was short-lived. The walls began to bleed. Not blood, black ink, like the pages of a cursed notebook. Words formed on the wallpaper, on the ceiling, on the floor. You think it's over? The Watcher is coming. The blood moon rises tonight. I ran outside. The sky was crimson. The moon, full, red, hungry, hung low on the horizon. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It's time, Daniel. Meet me at the crossroads. Bring the hammer. Elena. I knew where she meant. The intersection of Highway 83 and County Road 12, where my parents died. I got in my car. The engine roared to life. This wasn't just about destroying mirrors anymore. This was about ending it. For good. The blood moon hung low in the sky like a wound in the fabric of reality. Crimson light bathed the crossroads where Highway 83 met County Road 12, the exact spot where my parents' car had spun out of control 23 years ago. The air smelled of ozone and burnt rubber, even though there hadn't been rain in days. Elena was already there. She stood in the center of the intersection, wearing my body like a second skin. My face, my clothes, my posture, but her eyes. Her eyes were ancient, haunted, burning with purpose. "You came," she said, her voice mine but layered with something older. "I had to," I replied, gripping the silver hammer. "It's not over, is it?" She shook her head. "The mirrors are gone, but the Watcher isn't bound to them. It's bound to the network, the connections between souls. And the final anchor is you." I'd suspected as much. The moment I freed my childhood self, I'd felt it, a thread snapping, then reforming, tighter, stronger. The Watcher wasn't in the mirrors. It was in the grief that tied them together. "The blood moon is the key," Elena explained. "On this night, the veil is thinnest. The Watcher will try to step through. And if it does..." She didn't need to finish. I'd seen the field of purple flowers. I'd seen the empty eyes. I knew what awaited the world. "What do we do?" I asked. She held out her hand. In her palm lay a small vial of black liquid mirror ink, distilled from the shattered glass of all 7 mirrors. "We perform the final ritual. You drink this. It will tether your soul to both worlds. Then, when the Watcher comes, you offer yourself as the last anchor." "Sacrifice me?" I asked, my voice hollow. "No," she said, her eyes softening. "Not sacrifice. Choice. The Watcher feeds on inevitability, on the belief that your story is already written. But if you choose to stand in its path, freely, willingly, it starves." I looked at the vial, at the blood moon, at the road where my parents died. This wasn't just about stopping a monster. It was about reclaiming my story. I drank. The ink burned like ice, spreading through my veins, connecting me to every shattered mirror, every freed soul, every moment of grief I'd ever buried. I saw them all. Linda Cho finally at peace. Rebecca Lin, holding her mother's hand. Marcus Chen, smiling as his father's ghost faded. Elena, standing in her family's empty house, whispering, "I'm sorry." And then I saw it. The Watcher in the glass. It didn't have a shape. Not really. It was a distortion, a ripple in reality, a hole where a soul should be. It rose from the center of the crossroads, pulling the crimson moonlight into itself like a black hole. "Daniel Carter," it whispered, its voice a chorus of every soul it had ever consumed. "Your story ends here." I raised the silver hammer. "No," I said. "My story ends where I choose." I didn't strike it. I stepped into it. The world dissolved into static, into glass, into screams. I felt the Watcher's hunger, its ancient loneliness, its desperate need to fill the void inside it with stolen stories. But I didn't give it my fear. I gave it my truth. I am Daniel Carter. I lost my parents. I was afraid. I ran. But I came back. And I choose to stand here, not because I have to, but because I want to. My story isn't yours to write. The Watcher shrieked, a sound that wasn't sound, a tear in the universe. And then, silence. The blood moon faded. The crimson light bled away, replaced by the soft silver of a normal full moon. I stood alone at the crossroads. Elena was gone. The hammer was gone. But in my hand, I held a single white lily. It hadn't wilted. Not even a little.